Okay, you're live.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jonathan. We're going to go ahead and open up the June 14th Hood River City Council meeting and call that to order. Let's see, we'll do the land, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance first. And then we're going to go into urban renewal. Do we have a flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I normally do the land pledge. I do not have it in front of me and I'm not going to wing it tonight. So we'll do that next time around. And maybe we'll be in person next time. We're going to discuss that tonight. I'm going to go ahead and recess to consider the urban renewal agenda this evening. And call to order the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency meeting for June 14th, 2021. Do we have any additions or corrections?
Chair McBride, I'd suggest moving the budget adoption between the consent agenda and MIG's presentation, just to get it out of the way.
Okay. All right, we'll just switch those two items in their order. All right, first of all, we have a consent agenda, which is just the approval of the meeting minutes from May 10th. Does anyone want to make a motion on those?
I would move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I think Tim, did you second that? Okay. Megan has made a first to approve the consent agenda and Tim has seconded that. Any discussion? All those in favor? I'm going to do a roll call vote. Mark? Yes, he's signaling yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jessica?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Megan?
Yes.
Gladys?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, and then we will go into the adoption of the 2021-22 budget, which is resolution 2021 URA-01. I have actual script for that. This is the time scheduled for the public hearing regarding the approved budget for FY 2021-22 for the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency. We'll now take public testimony. Has anyone registered with the city recorder to speak or provide any written testimony? Jen?
No one has signed up, Your Honor.
Thank you. So no one has signed up. So we have rules for speaking, but no one has signed up. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public testimony.
And I can give a brief over.
Okay, and then Will can give us a brief overview.
So we have a resolution adopting the approved budget for the Urban Renewal Agency. This budget was approved by the Budget Committee on May 12th, unanimously as proposed. The fiscal year 21-22 budget includes the addition of a special projects and community engagement coordinator that's half shared with the city. Evaluation, beginning to evaluate structured parking on the Columbia lot, downtown wayfinding project, like a signage project, the addition of more electronic payment kiosks as recommended in the City of Hood River's parking study, a contribution of just under $1 million towards the Second and Oak signalization, and in the waterfront district, continued support for the waterfront stormline relocation project, which is now going to be going into phase 2 soon of construction. And then lastly, in the Heights and Urban Renewal District, the Heights Urban Renewal District, related to tonight's presentation is a continuation of the MIG's streetscape planning project.
Okay, thank you, Will. Looking at the order of things here, I was supposed to go into the public hearing after your presentation, but we don't have anyone to speak this evening or give comment or ask questions. So I guess it is just for us. If we have any additional questions or discussion about the budget, we have all seen it. And so do we have any more discussion on that before we would do a motion?
And I would just add, it should be, the resolution should be 2021. That's my mistake, but either reference and a motion, we'll understand what the board is trying to do, and we'll fix that typo scribbler's error in the final document that's signed.
Okay, so the official resolution is 2021-URA-02.
Correct, for the
Okay,
current year. Mhm.
okay. Discussion, anyone on the urban renewal budget? I don't see anyone raising their hand, so does anyone want to make the motion on page 61 at the bottom with the correction of the date?
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion. I move to adopt resolution 2021-URA-02, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
I second that.
Megan has made a motion to approve resolution 2021 URA-02, and Jessica has seconded that motion. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Jessica,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Gladys,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Mark,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. All right, we've approved our urban renewal budget for 2021-22. Thank you, everyone. So next we will go into our regular business item, which is a Heights Urban Renewal Project update and policy discussion. Were you going to start that off, Will?
I'm
Or
gonna pass over
Dustin?
to Dustin. Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair. Again, tonight we have with us representatives from MIG, Alex Dupy and Nathan Polanski are joining us. The purpose of tonight's item is to review and approve the preliminary or emerging project goals, which is a key step in the phase one of this 3-phase project. And then to provide you a little overview regarding some of the survey and outreach results, which were another key component to phase 1 of 3 of the Heights Urban Renewal Streetscape and Design Project. We're going to have a little time to take some questions, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex and Nathan for to take us through this. And I think they have some presentations to accompany the materials in your packet.
Yes, thank you, Dustin. I'm excited to be here and kind of give you guys an update. I know it's been several months since we last talked with the board. As a kind of reminder, I'm Nathan Polanski. I'm the project manager for MIG and a civil engineer. And with me tonight is Alex Dupy. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. We'll kind of jump into this. All right, is everyone seeing the presentation slide? Awesome. Okay. So we'll kind of walk through this hopefully fairly quickly and give some time to talk through as a group kind of the goals, but kind of what we'd like to do is provide an update on the project schedule, where we are in the process to date, what we've accomplished, and kind of where we're headed. Give an overview on the public engagement that we've done over the last 4 months, beginning with the kind of kickoff meeting that we had with the advisory board or agency board and advisory committee, the online public survey that was open for a month back in March, and stakeholder meetings over April and May. kind of go through, present the project goals. Again, as Dustin mentioned, what we're looking for tonight is approval of the proposed project goals or clear direction on revisions that are needed so that we can come back and kind of wrap up the project goals. And this is kind of our first and sort of only checkpoint within phase one, and then we'd be coming back for phase two contract approval. So from a schedule standpoint, just as a reminder, this project has been broken into 3 phases. The first phase is what we kind of call discovery. It's a lot of kind of initial document review, looking at regulatory standards, and really a lot of public engagement, working with the community, working with stakeholders. Our next phase will be kind of developing preliminary concepts. We're scoped to develop 3 different concepts for the study area streets. So that will be phase 2, and phase 3 is developing that final plan, the final preferred alternative, and a kind of implementation action plan that the Urban Renewal Board can use to move forward with future street improvements. So this is kind of where we've been for the last couple of months, just kind of showing where in this window we are. I've added and kind of popped up from the last slide an upcoming meeting that we're planning as kind of an informational session with the board and the advisory committee to give an overview of the regulatory process and environment as it relates to the design of street improvements. We've been coordinating with ODOT over the last month or so. We kind of sent a long list of questions for their review in anticipation of this meeting. And so we're preparing for that and see that really being a good kickoff for phase 2 of the project. As a refresher, we're looking at kind of the Heights streets, primarily, 281, the kind of the state highway couplet within the Heights, 13th and 12th streets, as well as May Street, and kind of the intersection to the south of Belmont, where they come back together. But recognizing that the circulation and kind of traffic flow, both cars and people moving through these areas, are also very dependent on those east-west streets. So we're also, taking a look at those those streets as well. And this is a much smaller boundary than the kind of overall urban renewal kind of boundary that covers kind of an area north to Oak Street and south to Brookside. And again, we're just looking primarily at the public right-of-way along these streets. So when we met in February, we had a kickoff meeting. One of the things that we did was produced a word cloud of the kind of conversation, the notes, and the summary packet that we sent out. And these were the results of that word cloud. So some of the things that pop up that I think are pretty common for people's thinking of kind of how the streets operate today: fast traffic, unsafe streets, parking, traffic, valley, safety, a lot of things that don't necessarily make you think of a livable, bikeable, walkable community that is documented in both the goals of the urban renewal goals, as well as kind of the vision that we've started to kind of put together through conversations with the community over the last few months. We asked another question of the board and advisory committee at that kickoff meeting, and what does the Heights look like in 20 years? Access, change, parking was still there, and it's a topic that was a repeat topic coming up in all of our stakeholder meetings and has been very important to the businesses that we've talked and heard from. People, community, bike, building. And so kind of you can see that shift in the way that people perceive the streets today, and kind of what, at least from the board and the advisory committee's goals, this can look like in the future. So after we had our kickoff meeting, we prepared an online survey. We used the information, the kind of exercises that we walked through with you guys last time to frame some initial project goals and some other questions to kind of gather information from the community at large. It was online for 3 weeks. It was available in English and Spanish. And you can see here's a map of the participants on where they live. We got a very good distribution, I think, from our perspective, of people that live across the city and kind of beyond, and we've got, you'll see a scattering of feedback from folks kind of further out of town in the valley. One of the things that was a little disappointing from an outreach standpoint is there weren't actually any responses that were completed in Spanish. And so that's something that we've really taken a close look at, and we're modifying and kind of gathering feedback on how we can do better to engage the Latina community as we're conducting our outreach. Some of the key takeaways, which are very consistent with the kind of existing conditions document review that we had done, kind of studying all of the great community conversations over the last, several years, but, slowing traffic, creating safe streets and intersections for not just people driving, but people biking and walking too. We heard often how people driving really do feel uncomfortable moving through intersections and traffic just moving too fast. Promoting a livable community. Each of those first three bullets really aligned with the project goals as being most important to survey participants. Supporting access to local businesses was identified as being very important. Again, parking is one that popped up when we're thinking about access to businesses, and as we start to develop concepts, is something we're going to be talking more about. And Dustin had included a comment in your cover memo for tonight's meeting of we're going to be moving forward with a parking study to kind of set a baseline condition for what parking exists today to kind of help have a more transparent conversation with the community and with business owners and agency staff. So as a part of the online survey, we really got really good information that's kind of map based. One of the kind of great tools that we have is people are able to put pins on a map and define the routes that they walk, define the routes that they bike, provide specific feedback on where there are issues that they experience on their day-to-day errands, commuting through the area, traveling to and from school. And so, the big takeaway is that there are no common routes through the Heights. All the streets and corridors are used very well. There are, when you get into the comments, there are some very nuanced things. We did go through and read all of the comments that people left to try to start to refine that information. But consistently heard kind of similar information from people. Biking, you'll see a similar map. Some of the things that did pop up on the bicycling conversation is, the Pine to Taylor connection is an important east-west connection, and Ada Wilson is another east-west connection that kind of rises to the top a little bit more than some of the other intersections. And how can we think about designing intersections to improve safety? From a driving standpoint, similar. You'll see, every intersection has concerns where people dropped a pin on a map and had issues, and some of the things, the reoccurring things that we heard were really poor sight lines. Traffic was moving too fast, hard to focus on both cars moving and then also look for pedestrians. There's just a lot going on. So how can we create streets that kind of are slower? And how can we improve intersections to kind of eliminate those conflicts? From an economic development standpoint, a recurring theme was how to improve access to businesses and views to businesses. And I think that goes hand in hand with parking from a driving standpoint, but also how can we get people to cross the street more comfortably? One of the things that we heard in stakeholder meetings that I'll talk a little bit about is, people want to park in front of the businesses that they're going to because they're not comfortable crossing the street. And so how that tends to lead to less parking availability or kind of perceived ability based on people's comfort levels moving across the streets while they're out of their car. And an interest in kind of highlighting the local character, recognizing this as a destination for local people and where people do their daily services and kind of. So that was the online survey. Like I said, we had a great participation and results. One of the things that we wanted to make sure we were supplementing that with was talking to key community members. And so I mentioned that we did not get good feedback in Spanish. And so we did have Nextdoor facilitated 2 in Spanish meetings. One of those was with the Latinos in Acción community members, and the second one was with Latino business owners in the project area. There were, I want to say, 7 to 12 participants in each of those meetings that provided very great feedback on those. We also met with the Landmarks Board, who provided great historical insight on the way that the Heights had developed, the way that infrastructure had sort of, from their perspective, informed traffic patterns and kind of contributed to the Heights that is today. It was very interesting to hear how kind of culvert and road improvement projects on May and south of Belmont really seemed to kind of try to improve connections to the neighborhoods, but allowed for that kind of more thoroughfare traffic. We also met with Up Valley community members, and it was very insightful to hear the feedback directly from those folks. I know there had been, from our document review and kind of past conversations, it kind of had this impression that it was making sure traffic flows through. We can't slow traffic down. Parking is really important, but there was also a lot of recognition that there needs to be a safe place for people biking. It's not just about driving. We met with the community organizations, Streets Alive, Livable Hood River, and Thrive, and they reinforced a lot of the things that the community had said in the online survey. Very important to make connections across the neighborhood, across the streets between neighborhoods and parks and schools. The business community was something that we didn't have as great feedback on. We unfortunately only had one attendee to the business stakeholder meeting, which was the new director of Alex, I'm blanking on it. It's the
Chamber
of Commerce. Thank you. So what we've done kind of in coordination with the URAC, we followed up with a separate business letter, a letter that was kind of delivered, the city hand delivered to select businesses within the Heights to get more feedback from business and property owners along the Heights. We've gotten 5 of those surveys in. The advisory committee members are also scheduling a meeting with folks to kind of get additional feedback to make sure that we're properly hearing from those stakeholders. So some of the key takeaways that we had on all of these, preserving the area as a local destination, and then a lot of these other kind of slowing traffic down, making streets safer to cross, and improving the connections, building on the area's character and history, and managing on-street parking. So a lot of recurring themes, which is one thing that gives us confidence. While we know there are probably some gaps that we're looking to fill from a stakeholder standpoint, we are hearing kind of the same information again and again. We've also started connecting with transit agency, and so we had a meeting with them to understand their long-term plans, and we're also waiting for the findings from the ODOTs and the Safe Routes to School study. So what does all that feedback look like, and what is the realm of possibilities, and what might future street improvements look like? And this is kind of a collage of images that sort of we see as summarizing some of the feedback from the community and from the stakeholders and from our public outreach. Improving intersections, making those safer and more visible. Crosswalks, making those more visible. What are other opportunities along the streets to do things like parklets and bring those in when we're talking about access to businesses? Are there places where we can take out one parking stall and do something different that allows more visibility and access for businesses? How can we integrate bike facilities along the streets? And in a limited right-of-way, we've got 60 feet of right-of-way on 12th and 13th Street, so there's not a lot of space to balance these needs. Looking at the alleys as opportunities, the image in the top right, are there ways that we can kind of use that space to engage and pull people in? And so those kind of, in our mind, kind of envision some of the things that we heard from the community and start to document the community's vision and really inform kind of how we're going about developing project goals. And so for the draft goals that we want to talk about tonight and get the board's approval on, this is the kind of filter process that we've used to get to these draft goals. And so we started with the urban renewal plan goals, the 7 goals for each of the kind of areas: economy, district identity, recreation, traffic, transportation, public utilities. Oops, sorry. Public involvement in housing. We had our kickoff meeting. Sorry about that. We had our kickoff meeting, and we took the information from our conversation and we developed those preliminary project goals. Those were what we showed on the online survey. From the online survey, we kind of went through survey feedback. We kind of tweaked goals in a couple of places, and we took those to the advisory committee last month. The Urban Renewal Advisory Committee unanimously approved or kind of agreed with the goals that were identified. There are a couple of small updates that we made, and those are reflected in the final goals that we've presented to the board tonight. So we've organized these goals as our 4 community priority goals, and then 3 urban renewal plan goals. And so the kind of at a high level, the first one, and to some extent, they sort of align with these plan goals. We tried to some extent structure the goals and follow that same kind of process. And there's a little bit of mixing of those. And one of the things that I do want to kind of mention is that, these goals are being developed to help identify evaluation criteria that is going to be used for evaluating the concepts that we develop in phase 2. These don't need to be exhaustive goals that kind of cover every little item. And so we've tried to kind of broadly capture the goals of the community in these. So what I'd like to do is kind of walk through these individually. I'll read these one at a time and then kind of open it up to questions. So the first goal, which is a community priority, is preserve and promote a livable community through streetscape improvements that balance safety and access for people walking and biking with parking needs to support access to local businesses and future mixed-use development. So this is one that we updated after going through the stakeholder meetings, recognizing that that parking piece was really important to the community and based on the information that we were hearing. Goal 2, create an identity for the Heights that reflects the diverse culture and history of the area and is a destination for local residents. We heard throughout our conversations that the Heights is different than downtown. It's not intended from a stakeholder or business standpoint to want it to become a tourist destination, albeit that does support the businesses. There's kind of more of a desire to have this support the local community, residents, and neighborhood. Safe and comfortable creates streets and gathering spaces that provide safe, comfortable places for people walking and biking along and across the corridor, and that connects area, recreation, and commercial destinations and neighborhoods. This is another one that we tweaked a little bit to make sure that we were getting the connections to area parks and schools and destinations. Goal 4, calm traffic and improve intersections to improve safety for people driving, walking, and biking, and supporting local businesses. In our conversation with the URAC last month, they wanted to make sure that, while calming traffic is important and kind of improving safety, it's also a priority that we're balancing that with access and supporting local businesses. And these 3 goals, align very well with the urban renewal plan. Support existing and future development by maintaining and improving utility infrastructure as part of the streetscape project. Now, as we get to developing a preferred concept, we're going to be looking closely at utilities and how we can kind of plan for future infrastructure investment, both underground and above ground, that aligns with implementation for the project. Goal 6, engage local residents and businesses, the school district, and those that use the corridor to provide ongoing input during the streetscape project. So not something that's going to be reflected necessarily, well, in the final deliverable as a outcome, but making sure that we're continuously engaging the community. And I think that will be reflected by a final plan that is supported by the community at large, as well as the URAC and the URAP. And the last goal is provide locations for people to gather, to stop and rest. And to some extent, this gets a little bit to the, the housing goal that was added to the urban renewal plan. How can we recognize that the future of the Heights also include potentially people, more density, people living. And so let's make sure that we're kind of carving out some spaces for those activities as well, where we can within our limited right of way. So those are the draft goals. I guess with that, I will open it up to questions from the board to get feedback on whether these goals, broadly represent the needs of the project and the community, and whether there's anything that is missing.
Thanks, Nathan. I have one question just to start before we have more questions. The order of these, is this an order of priority, or these just, there's really no, the numbering doesn't really mean anything, one's first, second, third, or?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Gride. Yeah, the ordering isn't relevant. I think it's important to recognize that the first 4 goals were really identified as community priority, and the other 3 align more with the urban renewal plan. Looking at how these are going to be used in the future, we really see this as kind of a framework for establishing evaluation criteria to evaluate the concepts that we're going to be developing. And I don't, we're not expecting that each of these goals is going to have a certain or the same number of evaluation criteria as we look at each concept in the future. The safe, comfortable bike bed connectivity might have 5 evaluation criteria, and utility infrastructure might have 1. And we're going to take a look at that and kind of balance that so that we're evaluating projects appropriately.
Okay, great. I'll let others, I've got a couple questions, but I'll let others go first. They may also have the same question I do. Who wants to go first with questions? Mark?
Yeah, thanks you guys. This is great. I guess I'll move the thing to my biggest comment to first, which is, even though you're not intending this to be in priority order, everyone that reads this will take it as being in priority order. And I fairly strongly think that item 4 should be moved to the top, because it's what we heard the most. It's what you guys just presented as you heard the most. And I don't want us to shoot ourselves in the foot and have to be defending ourselves in a public meeting later that says, you only thought traffic calming was the 4th most important thing. So, and even back a few slides, it said you were putting them in priority order kind of thing. So even though I completely agree with you as a project manager, I think that we have a messaging job that we're all going to do, and that putting that traffic calming first would be the best. I do have, my question is related to the difference between number 3 and number 7. When you look at the expanded text, they sound pretty similar. I think your description just now about how do you make spaces for possible residents in this core probably answers the question, and they're unique enough. But when I read the 2 descriptions, I wasn't sure what the difference between them was. So maybe that's something for discussion. I don't know if simplifying it makes sense. And then lastly, I have a question just to make sure that whether the final result is a couplet or not is still an open question for the next phase. And I just want to make sure that that's a truism.
That is very true. We
Okay.
we haven't started getting into what these concepts look like. These are kind of a way for us to kind of document community vision and kind of the direction we're headed.
Right, and I don't have a preference. I just want to make sure that it remains open and through the analysis. So those are my things. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Others? Megan?
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm going to start with one, but one of the big things I was noticing is, and maybe this is just in my own brain, you know, we've got walking and biking and driving, but public transit is using this area. I think that long-term should be using it more. And that does seem like it has some different needs than, you know, just walking or biking or single person occupancy cars or even, you know, trucks and stuff going to the valley. And I'm wondering if you guys see that differently, or if there's some way that can be added, or if it's covered somewhere else and I'm missing it. What are your thoughts?
Transit has definitely been part of the conversation, and I think that is a good observation that there's a gap, and it should be in here.
And I think we'll remember, Saunders, I think too, you know, with transit, you know, safe pedestrian connectivity, you know, we definitely heard that with CAT when we were talking with them as well. And so maybe we could add a nod to transit access within that. We've also talked to, you know, a bit about them about types of buses that they use. You know, eventually when we get into concepts, it's like, what does a station or what does a stop look like, you know, within the corridor, and how does that start to come to be? So there's, you know, I think we could add within 3, you know, to incorporate transit access into that, because that definitely goes along with that pedestrian connectivity. That's a good catch.
Thank you.
Megan, I think also, you know, on our agenda this evening, we're going to be talking about an intergovernmental agreement with CAT and bus stop. So that'll be kind of a segue into, you know, the Heights area too with those stops. Thanks.
One of the things I might just add that will be interesting is from our conversation with CAT, it was interesting to hear they relatively recently changed their route. And so, you know, as we think about planning for future stops, is kind of how long-term are they there along that route, and kind of how can we facilitate a street design that kind of allows them to feel more comfortable in keeping that long-term.
Jessica? And then Gladys.
I just mostly had a comment in reading through them. I liked it all, and I really appreciated all of your work. I felt like it did a good job synthesizing what I've heard from the community. I was thinking originally, I was like, man, some of these are almost mutually exclusive. But I liked leaning on the word balancing, because I think that that's really going to be the challenge of balancing, especially the cars and the parking with the bikes and the pedestrians, and some of the other things that folks want to see happen in the right of way. In the staff memo from Dustin, he did talk about that there are some conversations about a limited scope parking study in phase 2. And I think that that's a really good idea to help address and provide more information for the community. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Your next, Gladys, one question to follow on Jessica for
Oh,
Dustin.
no, go for it. Yeah. I'm finished.
Okay, okay.
Go for it.
Before I forget, the traffic study, is that, how big is that going to be? Will it be studied in the, you know, the summer months plus the off-season months, or how will that work? Do you know?
The parking study, Chair?
Yes, for the Heights.
Yeah, we're trying to hit the peak and off-peak, similar to what we did before, to have some baseline data that's a little seasonal. So we'll be trying to really take quick action on that, because it's peak time now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're anxiously going to move that forward, or not. We're going to move that forward quickly as a part of it. Again, we did hear a lot of that from business owners, both Latino business community as well as chamber and folks, that it started, and people in the area, actually around the area, who are seeing the redevelopment occur. It just started really becoming a part of the conversation, and really starting to elevate. So soon, both measuring all, our current, what we see as peak or expect to be peak seasonality right now.
Yeah, the goal is to get, ideally, if everyone's in agreement, is have that amendment be approved along with phase 2 so that we can get those counts done in August during that peak season.
Great. Gladys?
Well, Megan asked one, you asked the other. So the third question that I had, well, first of all, I just want to, Alex, Nathan, and Dustin, thank you so much for all the time and effort that has gone into this work. I appreciate all the attention that has been paid to stakeholders, community members. Dustin, I really do appreciate your intentional outreach efforts, from practicing your Spanish to being very intentional with those that you engage for their feedback. My question is about how will you engage business owners? Sounds like English-speaking business owners weren't as engaged. How are you going to engage them? And how will you continue to keep those stakeholders engaged or part of the process as we actually start building some projects?
I can maybe start with that one. So Board Member Rivera, thank you for that question. So I think from, as we had a really good turnout from the Spanish speaking businesses that the next door facilitated. And that was great because we didn't get as strong of a survey response for that. And so I think from that perspective, what we'll continue to do is reach out through Nextdoor and Latinos en Acción and others to make sure that we're getting to those demographics in that area. And I think that will be definitely helpful as we can start to meet in person more, which seems like we're starting to get there. So we'll continue to do that. I think from the other business groups, primarily English speaking, is doing additional outreach with them. We did provide a survey to them that they were able to fill out, either email or paper copy, and we've gotten some response to that. But we've talked about just doing like a kind of stop and chat, type of outreach with them to catch them when they're there. And so I think that will be a part of the next phase of involvement. I think the other piece too is that we do have an open house or workshop, which we're still working through what that process might look like, later in the summer or fall. That will likely be in person, and then we'll be able to do some direct outreach with them to be able to vet those concepts. So we're hoping that higher touch will be more interesting to folks. And then as we get through it, infographics, fact sheets, we have some of those within our scope that we'll be starting to publish as well too, as we get into it. So we should have more information coming out for each of those phases.
I was wondering if there's any sort of plans to outreach, for example, at the farmers market, at different areas where our community is actively gathering right now, to bring awareness that this work is happening right now, that just we're looking for folks' thoughts and opinions.
The kind of the general layer of input right now, when we don't have a process moving like a survey or something, is through the website. And we could certainly, there is opportunity to comment there, but Dustin, we could work with you to see if there are other events coming up, having information like those fact sheets, or even note postcards, things like that we tried with the survey, to keep it fresh and drive people to the website to provide that comment. But yeah, it's an important thing, is when we're kind of in that downtime, when we're doing analysis or something else, we want to make sure people stay interested for when we do have those public events, that they're up to speed and well aware.
And I'm waiting on invitation to church. We're going to St. Mary's. Hopefully we make the cut for the bulletin. I don't know, but I put my best foot forward, and I spoke with some of the church representatives and Father Tommy, and so we will be there. I'm hoping that we get the invite there. Myself and some of our more prolific and proficient Spanish-speaking members of our staff are going to go to church. So that's we as disappointing as some of the survey results were, that first person, going to people where people are, really translated into our meetings, translated to results. And we had some really analog work, hand built to businesses, chicken and teriyaki, the Mercado Guadalajara, all like we're really receptive in having us. So hopefully some of those first person events continue on. Well, again, they will continue on, and that seems to be the way that we convert. We talk about conversions. We can get out there and be on Radio Tierra, but we're not getting that electronic conversion, but people will talk to us. They have something to say, so they will tell us. So.
Well, I think, Dustin, that's an important point, is that we won't capture everybody with a single format. Some people will want to do surveys, some people want to be in person. And so, it's providing those various opportunities for people to be involved. So we didn't capture Spanish speakers, so we were able to meet in person. We'll continue to do that. But I think it's important that, not one format's going to grab every single group. And we're seeing that a lot, where people are ready to get out of the house now. And so they want to meet in person. So I expect our public meetings will be well attended, if for no other reason than to, get out from your basement. So.
Others with questions?
I'll just make one last comment. Dustin, you mentioned that this, to some extent, was a disappointment. And while I understand where you're coming from, I also just want to, you guys were able to capture Spanish-speaking business owners. That's a huge win in my book, and to me that's a form of success, because it was intentionally engaging a group who is not represented at the table. So that's a big win. So thank you guys. I really appreciate all your work.
Great, thank you.
I'm gonna onto that, especially now having heard all of the efforts that went into engaging folks in a variety of different manners, and really working very hard to do it. I want to thank you all for that. And I am glad to see that there was some success, at least in some formats. That's super exciting. So thank you.
Tim?
Mayor, this is Jim. I don't know whether you can see me raise my question.
Tim, your voice is cutting out. I'm not sure if you could get closer to the microphone, but it's very
Okay.
underwater sounding.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. I have a specific question with respect to bullet number 4, the balance.
You're still cutting out, Tim. We're hearing about every fourth word.
I wonder if it's a bandwidth issue. Maybe if you, just while you're asking your question, turn off your video to save bandwidth might help, or we can put it in the chat.
Go ahead and try it again, Tim, with your just voice.
Number 4, can you hear me now?
We can hear you so far.
Okay. The balanced traffic calming with business access. There's a conflict there, and I'm trying to understand the conflict better. Can you explain the conflict to me? Because it essentially to me suggests that balancing traffic is not promoting traffic calming, promoting business access.
I caught some of that, and maybe I'll try to answer. And I think it wasn't so much this goal as it was originally written was to kind of really focus on traffic calming, and kind of it was basically the first half of the statement: calm traffic and improve intersections to improve safety for people driving, walking, and biking. In our conversation with the IRAC, there was a kind of discussion related to kind of maintaining access to businesses. I think some of it probably gets to some of a parking piece, and I want to make sure the discussion was let's make sure that we're including kind of supporting businesses and kind of that access there. And so that was combined. And so kind of the same way that we're talking about how do we balance all these different modes and needs within the right of way, I think the desire was let's make sure as we're looking at slowing traffic, let's think about how that's going to be impacting business access and people that want to get there, whether they're walking, biking, or driving, and make sure that we're thinking it through that lens as well.
Maybe it might be better if you could say promoting traffic calming while maintaining business access or something like that. Some things, and
I
maybe
get,
it's just
I
me.
get what you're saying, Tim, because when you say balance the calming with the business access, it sounds like one versus the other.
Right.
And so you're just, if you could state it differently, so it isn't one's
Cons-
fighting with the other one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's was my comment.
Okay.
Other questions, anyone? Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll say I really do like these goals. And I won't repeat what Mark and Jessica said, but I thought their comments were spot on. I guess I'm thinking about goal number 2 and district identity. It's indicating we're going to create and enhance the area as a mixed-use neighborhood, which sounds great. The only thought that's going through my mind is also sort of the core idea of the Heights being this hub of locals economy, which you said elsewhere, but I guess just looking at all these goals, one part that isn't there that maybe should be there, or at least should be thought about being there, is when I see the word economy in here, the word economy really has 2 meanings. One is, the economy and business, but there's also a certain degree of economy. There's a just kind of a day-to-day commodity business use for this area that's affordable for its users. And I guess when I read that goal 2 is to develop this area as a mixed use neighborhood, that sounds great. But also I think there's some sense of also wanting to preserve it for that economical locals business area. And I think that's also in some of these other goals, but I don't necessarily think that we're saying the goal is to completely change and just have this mixed use neighborhood. I think we want to aspire for that, but also preserve that kind of real basic nature of what the Heights maintains. And I think it's in the goals. I'm just reacting to goal number 2 and maybe not seeing quite that shade.
And I think Board Member Haney, I think the question, like the balance between goal 1 and goal 2, partly these are a little bit more specific than what your urban renewal goals are, where like you're talking about economic development, mixed use development, and kind of that local feel within the Heights. I think what we're looking at from a streetscape standpoint is how does the streetscape ultimately support the broader urban renewal goals within this area, but knowing that we're not addressing all of the land use issues or all of the other types of pieces that are outside of the streetscape scope. And so I think that's one thing we're trying to look at is that you're not looking at where future development paths would be, for example, for mixed use, but more like making sure that we're not doing anything to preclude that within these goals. So that's why we leave it in there. The other piece, I think, it's a great observation about the economy of a place. There is the financial economy, but also what we've heard from community members is that this is a great space because they can do a couple different things at one time. And so it's the kind of the economy of travel with that. And that's something that we would still want to keep, particularly for locals who come to this area to go to the hardware store and then they go someplace else, within the same trip.
Thank you.
I think everyone has covered anything that I had on my mind about these. I think these are great, great goals. I think you guys captured everything that all of the stakeholders that our council has had on their minds about it in a way that says balance, that we need to balance all these things together. And a lot of outreach you did, that was fantastic. And I'm really anxious to see phase 2.
Thank you, Chair. Unless you have something else, we do intend to come back next month with revisions to the project or to the goals, and really taking the comments that we heard here and, and finalize that and launch ourselves into right into phase 2 while the summer's going and while we have the momentum. So we really appreciate your time and taking the opportunity to look over the information. We look forward to seeing you next month.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Do we not need a motion?
We have a motion. There's a motion on page 6 of our urban renewal packet. And I think we just had maybe one verbiage change that you guys already probably caught there that we talked about, but that motion's on page 6.
Can I make a motion? And I'd like to move to approve the draft project goals, amending it to move item 4 to the top and changing the word "and" to "while" in number 4.
What about transportation? We talked about transportation as well.
And what number was that in?
With the
3.
addition of transportation to point number 3.
Motion so amended.
Okay, I have a motion from Mark.
I'll second.
A second.
I think I've got Tim. Tim made a second on that. And we had a third by Gladys. Any discussion?
I guess and maybe I'm just having a hard time remember everything we talked about in the last hour. Does that capture everything we discussed in those 3 bullets, or are there other things that our consultants and Justin heard that need to be edited?
Chair McBride, I was keeping notes if you'd like me to go through.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I know we had specific things on those goals that Mark, I think, captured and Gladys helped with. But go through those just so we can make sure we didn't miss anything.
Yeah, and I think the motion does have it encapsulated. Go ahead, increase the priority of traffic calming / business access, as Councilor Miller noted. Add in public transit when we're talking about connectivity. So I think those are the 2 real tangible ones. But then there was also just a note about being a little clearer about promoting traffic calming while protecting business access, and try not to have them be kind of against one another. And then Councilor Haney's comment about really preserving the economy that's up there, the current economy that has affordability involved. And I think those last 2 we don't need to have in the motion because they're more stylistic, and certainly we understand them, and the project team understands them.
Okay. If everyone's okay with that, any other comments? We have a motion on the table. Okay, roll call vote. Jessica?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Gladys?
Aye.
Megan?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. All right, fantastic. Phase 1, check.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks all.
Great. Anyone else have any other items to do with urban renewal this evening that they want to bring up? No? Okay. All right. We're going to adjourn our urban renewal meeting at 6:59.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. See you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mayor, I'm gonna log off and then log back in and see if that improves.
Okay. Yeah. It might be bandwidth. I'm not sure. It's very jerky on the audio.
Well, you're not the first person to say that about me.
Okay. Okay, we're going to wait just a moment to see if Tim can log back on and get a better connection.
I'm back.
Okay, I think Tim is there. Can you hear me, Tim?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we can hear you so far. All right, we'll go ahead and reopen the Hood River City Council meeting at this point. We have business from the audience and we have one person that would like to speak. Jonathan, if you can promote Charlie Bus or Buse, I'm not sure how to say the name. Charlie, you have 3 minutes.
All right. Hi there, everybody. My name is Charlie Buss. Excuse me. And I'm here just to speak about some of the Pride events that are happening in Hood River and other gorge areas as we are celebrating Pride this month. So this Sunday, the 20th at 11:45, there will be a very small and socially distanced parade on the sidewalk over at Riverside Church, just right after our church service. So 11:45 this morning on Sunday. And then that afternoon at 4 o'clock, we're going to be doing what's called a rainbow rollout with the Gorge Roller Derby League. We're meeting at the Clint's Cove trail site in the Dalles, and we'll just be having an opportunity for families and friends of all ages to get together and walk, bike, skate, and learn and celebrate more about Pride. And then also the following week, that Saturday, the Gorge Pride Alliance is having a bring your own picnic event at the Hood River waterfront. That's the Saturday, the 26th at 6 p.m. And also the following day, Sunday, 6/27, the Gorge Roller Derby group again is holding another rainbow rollout where we're also going to be at the waterfront skating around. But that also will start at 4 o'clock with a bit of a vigil where we talk about not only the celebrations of Pride, but sort of the struggle and the current and past events that's all happening in the LGBTQIA+ community. And then we also are going to just continue to have public events after that until 8 o'clock that evening. So Sunday, 6/27 from 4 to 8, you can come down to the Hood River waterfront and celebrate and learn more with us. Again, all ages are welcome. Bring your bike or not, or skates or whatever, just come and have fun. We're hopefully going to have a little bit of free yoga and also a raffle for some wonderful baskets for different community businesses to try to support all of that as well. And also all the proceeds for the raffle will be going to the Yes House, which is another organization I'd like to promote by just making you aware. It's the Youth Empowerment Shelter in the Dalles. And they're just there to support any youth that are not currently supported in their homes and need a safe place to be. So even with COVID, they've been working really diligently to make it a safe place for the kids who need it. So if you have any questions, you can find out more about them on their website. And also, we want to promote the Trevor Project, which is another sort of national organization to really help kids who are dealing with different issues in the LGBTQIA community, and especially feeling so depressed that they attempt suicide or have suicidal thoughts. And it's based on a really powerful documentary that was put out a few years ago called Trevor. So if you'd like to support the Trevor Project, that's another great way to show your pride this month. And finally, PFLAG is another great organization. And the folks at Riverside are working really hard to do their best to open up another conversation group there. I think in years past, we had a PFLAG discussion group, but they haven't been meeting lately. And I feel like this is a time in our history again when it really needs to be there. So if you're interested in getting more involved and meeting with us and working with us at Riverside in the PFLAG group, or if you're looking for just some safe people to talk to, we're here. We're in the Gorge. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie, so much for letting us know about all those events that are going on this month. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. That was our business from the audience. We now have a presentation from Marla Harvey from the Energy Council. Jonathan, if you want to promote Marla. Marla, are you there?
Hello.
There you are.
Thank you, everybody. I am going to share my screen.
Your bandwidth must be low. You're kind of fuzzy on the voice.
Not another one. What about now?
Oh, that's way better for the audio.
Well, we'll show my screen and not my face, and it'll be okay.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that.
Mayor, interrupt. Oh, it's just the internet. Do let me know if you can't hear me. But thank you for having me. My name is Marla Harvey. I work for Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, and I provide staffing support to the Hood River County Energy Council. And I have two goals tonight. First is to say a huge thank you.
You're fading out, Marla.
To the, I used to have a thank you slide that's not there. A huge thank you to the citizens of Mayor McBride on the Energy Council and your and your ongoing financial support. Can you hear me now?
Well, you're kind of going in and out a bit. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not.
Sorry, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, at least right this minute.
I'm just not knowing if this is gonna work.
Okay.
I can try calling in. Let me try that.
Okay, keep trying.
Marla, if you'd like to email the slides to Jen or to Will, they can share. It'll be a little clumsier, but that should work. Maybe to Jen because she's here in the office.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm sorry, I've never had this problem before specifically.
That's a hazard of Zoom. So why don't you just email them over to Jen, to me. Email them to me.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, it's slow for me tonight as well. You guys are all frozen up intermittently.
So Marla, if you can hear me, send me those slides. I'll pull them up and you can just keep talking.
I just did, so thank you. So
Okay.
Again, I was just saying a thank you to the city for your patience and for your contributions to the Energy Council. I also wanted to highlight some of the work that we collectively have accomplished in the last year. And there is a memo on page 3 and 4 of your packet with some wider variety of things covered, but I will touch on just a few that I think are most relevant or most new for your consideration and input. First of all, I wanted to do the obligatory reminder on why we talk about energy resilience and why it matters. So you would normally see a picture of all types of storms and fires and feel totally at risk because we are challenged by power outages in so many different ways. But that is, one of the big reasons that we look towards energy resilience, because we've seen what's happened in Texas, in California, most recently in the Rogue Valley, and we know that the threats are real when our community loses power, and we want to mitigate those risks as much as possible. We also realize we can't do that with diesel generators alone. And the same systems, whether it be solar and storage and renewables that can provide mitigation in those types of events, can also provide economic benefit to the region. And one thing that's often not thought about is the fact that our distribution grid has a lot of challenges. And so as we continue to expand, we as a community can save collective money by investing in reducing our demand and increasing renewable energy. So energy resilience looks at all of those things collectively. But in terms of the good stuff, what we've really accomplished in the last year, I wanted to highlight some of the work that we do directly with city staff. So we work regularly with Haley, and a lot of the resources that we send and support Haley with make their way to you in some form or another. Most recently, we're almost here, great. We're on the Rand Road slide, Mayor or Jen. A little bit up, it should be the one after why we talk about energy resilience. How fun. Great. So, most recently we had a meeting with thank you, I appreciate it, with Hood River City staff about the City Council's goals around energy resilience and energy efficiency. We shared resources and incentives to reduce costs of those, of integrating sort of opportunities that future-proof the development so that people in the future can look towards solar and storage or electric vehicles and be able to integrate that. We also encourage the city to consider integrating some language in your RFPs and your RFQs around energy and energy resilience, because it's been shown that you can cost effectively integrate these principles. It's just better when you have people that have experience doing so. Next slide, please. I mentioned this one last time, but we are excited because today or tomorrow, we will be releasing an RFP to a community-based organization to help us develop strategies to understand low-income communities and Latinx communities' interest in solar and weatherization resources. Next slide, please. We have a number of items around building energy resilience. Next slide, please. So you all are familiar with this project. We have 9 solar and storage systems at critical facilities throughout Hood River County. Those studies are now done and we are looking towards funding. I did want to mention we are really optimistic and excited about trying to figure out a way to access the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant. And I mentioned that because the federal government just sent a FEMA grant so that they'll put $1 billion into that funding pot. So we are optimistic about utilizing that for our community. Next slide, please. And finally, this was some work that we did to really understand, we know what the threats are to critical facilities, to individuals when we lose power. And we knew there were significant economic impacts, but we didn't know exactly what those were. So we wanted to try to start getting a handle on what those numbers looked like for our business community. So we interviewed 8 businesses in the agriculture, advanced manufacturing, tourism, and basic services sectors to get some anecdotal examples of the financial impacts they could see from a variety of outages from 3 hours to 2 weeks, because those are some outage lengths that we see or are told that we might see. Next slide, please. Spoiler alert, they're pretty significant. Just wanted to highlight a few of those. There will be a full report available in a few weeks or a few months, but this is some highlights I wanted to share. $1 million, that is the value of energy resilience to growers faced with 3-hour outage during certain conditions. So in a worst case scenario, growers might lose $1 million on the wrong day. For our breweries and food processing plants, starting after 24 hours and really at 48 hours, losses can be in the $250,000 to $1 million range. For some of our advanced manufacturing companies, we see that because products are being developed for a long period of time, they could, any sort of outage might cause $100,000 in losses just because of all the lost materials and products. Unsurprisingly, if you've been involved in any of the public safety power shutoff conversations, most businesses in our region do not have any form of backup power, and insurance coverage is very minimal for community outages. And there's an even larger question mark when it comes to the impacts on, again, utility-inspired outages called public safety power shutoffs. And then did want to mention that most businesses, if faced with a Cascadia event where they're down power for 2 weeks, they would be forced to close or leave the region. So while these are anecdotal examples, they showed to us the sort of real economic value of energy resilience. Next slide, please. So I wanted to say thank you and to take any questions about these or any other projects. I also wanted to reference that a big thank you to the Energy Trust of Oregon, who have been a huge support for all of the work that the community is doing around implementing the energy plan. And Jenny Hall, who was a program manager and a huge asset to our community, is on the line and can answer additional questions specifically related to the energy resilience work if more detailed questions are desired. I'll see if I can do this.
Does anyone have any questions? Gladys?
Hi, thank you, Marla. I appreciate your presentation. I have a question about communication in general. Do folks know what the Energy Council is, specifically low-income Latinx communities that you're trying to engage? Do they understand what the Energy Council is and its purpose, its goals? And if not, what are you planning to do and who are you planning to partner with in order to make this work happen?
I would say no. I would say probably the vast majority of the community, specifically low-income communities, have no idea who we are. And part of the work of the grant that we recently got, the Meyer Memorial Foundation, was to start addressing that issue and increasing communication. So it's a 2-year grant, and especially next year, we're looking at diversifying our communications, actually creating communications, creating a website, translating some of our materials. And that's sort of the starting point in terms of getting the word out. But then through this other work that we're doing with the weatherization and the Solarize campaign, we are partnering with a community-based organization who will help really make sure that the outreach and the communication there is appropriate to that project.
Yeah, and along the same lines, I have an additional question, and it was around, you said the weatherization project. Are you planning on engaging our Native American community who, they live in loose sites, and they're definitely a group of individuals that could access some of these resources? And the last point that I want to make is the importance of plain language. We have a lot of material in front of us. It just all needs to be simplified so that your end user really is able to comprehend and understand your goal. So just adding that piece to your communication. Thank you.
Fantastic point. And I appreciate that encouragement to diverge away from jargon. And then in terms of the question of Native Americans, and how are we outreaching to those communities, and if that's a part of our efforts or not, we know that there have been efforts to look at energy efficiency for those in the sites throughout the community. We focused on Latinx communities because they were the largest proportion of Hood River County, but I think it's definitely something that we would like to figure out if there's a new phase for.
Anyone else with other questions? We're going to hear from Marla one more time on a different subject, kind of different, not too different, but later on. No more questions. Great. Thanks, Marla. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. I promise that was a lot smoother in my practice without the tech issues.
Oh, thank you, Rachel, for bringing those slides up for Marla. We figured it out.
You handled it gracefully, Marla.
Oh, all right. Let's see here. Back to me. Public hearing, budget adoption, an election to receive state shared revenues. Will.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So in front of the City Council tonight is resolutions 2021-06 and 2021-07, making appropriations for the city for fiscal year 21-22 and electing to accept state shared revenues and allocating them into the general fund to support general fund services such as police, fire, planning, and parks, which make up the majority of our vast majority of our general fund spending. So the budget overall maintains prior fiscal year service levels. It also funds several major projects, including the addition of a special projects and engagement coordinator shared with the Urban Renewal Agency, an organization-wide equity and inclusion analysis that in alignment with the City Council's equity resolution, continued work on the Rand Road affordable housing development, and also development of a new citywide affordable housing production strategy policy. We're going to engage with a consultant to evaluate our EMS program, especially how it serves the rural areas of our county. Related to an item later tonight, there's budgeted for a contribution towards CAT bus for downtown and low income bus passes, as well as purchase of a trolley. We make investments into our IT infrastructure, replacing network servers and switches, and then also $250,000 towards a future resolution to the maintenance problems we're having at the Saruta tennis courts, and restarting the evaluation of producing renewable hydroelectric electricity from the city's existing water line. And that concludes my staff report, and happy to answer any questions ahead of the public hearing.
All right, I'll go ahead and read the script and then we'll get into discussion. I don't think we have anyone signed up, but I'm just going to start this here. This is the time schedule for a public hearing regarding the approved budget for fiscal year 2021-22 and the use of state shared revenue for the city of Hood River. The approved budget uses state shared revenue as a general fund revenue source, supporting police, fire, EMS, parks, and planning programs. We will now take public testimony if we have anyone signed up. Jen, do we have anyone signed up?
No one signed up, Your Honor.
Okay. Being that we have no one signed up, we will close the public testimony portion, and we will go ahead and have discussion on the budget. All right. Questions? We've all talked about these things in the budget committee meetings, so we've kind of gone through all of it, and we're going to have more discussion on some of these items later this evening. I don't see any questions, no hands up.
I move that as a part of tonight's consent agenda, the city council adopt resolution 2021-06 and resolution 2021-07, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2021-2022, imposing and categorizing tax levies and electing to receive state shared revenue.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion from Gladys and a second from Megan to approve resolution. I think I've got the wrong numbers on mine here, but I think you said the correct numbers, Gladys. To approve the budget. Any discussion? All right, this is to move it to the consent agenda. Is that what we should be doing, is doing it on the consent agenda?
Consent agenda for the regular meeting, yeah, during regular business.
Okay,
For the city council, that's the correct structure.
that's how we do it. Okay, all right.
Mayor,
Oh.
if I can, I had asked, could we not put it on the consent agenda since I can't vote on this one, but I would like to vote on the rest of the consent agenda?
Sure, we can modify the motion then, or when we get into the city council meeting, just ask that it be pulled from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and move it to consent, and then we'll take it off and vote on it separately at consent, when we get to consent. Okay, Gladys,
Aye.
Mark,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Eric,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and Jessica. This isn't a motion to approve, this is just a motion to move it to consent, correct?
Yeah, okay, so I can vote aye on this one.
Okay, all right. And chair votes aye. All right, we have moved that to the consent agenda. All right. That's all we have for our business our presentations and public hearings. I don't think we have anything for work session. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, all right. We'll go into regular council meeting and open the regular council meeting. Any additions or corrections?
The addition of the adoption of the budget and the state shared revenue to the consent agenda.
Okay, budget, and what was the other? I didn't catch that. Was that?
State shared revenue,
Oh, okay,
receipt of state shared revenue.
okay.
Madam Mayor? Yeah,
Yes,
Eric
Eric?
Haney. Yes, if it's possible, because I'd just like to recuse myself in abundance of caution, the real estate agent contract approval, if we could pull that off the consent agenda, please.
Okay, the real estate agent. All right, so we're going to go ahead and let's pull off number 6, which is the contract approval. And then we'll also pull off the budget and state shared revenue. So we're only going to have five items on the consent agenda right now because we have 2 potential conflicts on those 2 things for separate people. So do I have a motion for the consent agenda for items 1 through 5?
I move that we approve the consent agenda for items 1 through 5.
Second.
Who seconded that?
Tim can have it.
Tim, okay, all right.
Thanks,
So
Mike.
Jessica, okay, Jessica's made a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5, and Tim has seconded that motion. Roll call vote. Jessica,
Aye.
Gladys,
Aye.
Mark,
Yes.
Tim,
Aye.
Megan,
Yes.
Eric,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. All right. Let's do contract approval for real estate agent. Eric, did you have a conflict on that one?
Yeah, if I could recuse myself from that one, Your Honor, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Do I have a motion to approve the contract approval for the real estate agent?
I move to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Current Commercial Real Estate LLC.
Megan's made a motion
I second.
and Gladys has seconded the contract approval with Current Commercial LLC. Roll call vote. Jessica,
Aye.
Gladys,
Aye.
Mark,
Yes.
Tim,
Aye.
Megan,
Yes.
Counselor Haney, you're abstaining.
Abstain, thank you.
Okay, and chair votes aye. All right, then the approval of the budget and the state shared revenue as a separate item. Do I have a motion?
Would we say we're approving the resolution numbers or just saying approval of budget and state shared revenue is fine?
Resolution, the resolution 2021-06 and 2021-07 would be better.
If we approve resolution 2021-06 and 2021-07.
All right, Megan has made a motion to approve 20,
I'll second
as
it.
she stated. Mark has seconded that motion. All right, roll call. Eric,
Aye.
Megan,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tim,
Aye.
Gladys,
Aye.
Jessica,
I'm abstaining.
Abstaining.
I can participate in the budget committee, but I cannot approve the budget since some of the funds go to my employer.
Okay. And chair votes aye. All right. All the items on the consent agenda are approved. Regular business items. Marla, you're back on. Marla, we can't hear you. It doesn't look like you're muted, but we can't hear you. And now you're muted again. Looks like you're muted on the screen anyway.
Mayor, I think she's trying to call in. Pardon the interruption. We also, Marla, if this is not time sensitive, we can put it on the next, Mayor, with your permission, apologize for the interruption. We certainly can put this on the next agenda. It's really up to you.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead? Let's go to our next item. And Marla, let's see if, I don't know if you want to try to call in. And then we'll just go to our next item and you can see if you can phone in. And then we'll try and put her on this evening if we can in a different way a little bit later. Okay, let's go to the second item, which is Columbia Area Transit Intergovernmental Agreement.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And Jonathan, could you please promote, thank you, the Cat Bus account? So this is a really exciting partnership between the city and Columbia Area Transit that was included in your approved budget. And happy to introduce CAT's new Assistant Executive Director, John Ando, to the council as well, and allow him to continue on and explain the intergovernmental agreement to you.
Top of the evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Hi, okay. Well, I'm John Ando. I'm the new Assistant Executive Director of CAT. And I'm originally from San Jose, but I come here by way of being the former Executive Director of the Comet in Columbia, South Carolina. And I'm in a transition plan with the current Executive Director to where when she retires in June, that I will become the Executive Director here at CAT. And today I'm here to talk to you about the proposed intergovernmental agreement, which would in essence fund bus passes for the low income pass program that we're working in partnership with the city as well as the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District in relation to providing low income passes for those that meet a poverty threshold. In addition, we would utilizing our Federal Transit Administration CARES Act funding, we would in turn provide downtown passes for, in your staff report, you'll see a zone that has been designed, which we would provide the employers and the employees in downtown with free gorge passes so that they can access the CAT Hood River and the CAT weekend trolley service as in a way to reduce congestion and free up parking for those that are visiting the area. And then the last piece of this intergovernmental agreement is we would purchase and operate a weekend a trolley to utilize for what is called the weekend trolley route, which runs on Saturdays and Sundays within the city limits of Hood River. And this trolley service is another way to mitigate driving demand to downtown, free up parking, and also just provide a better quality of life for those that want to see and visit Hood River. With that in mind, I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Great partnership. Good to see you again, John.
Yes.
I met John the first day he came to Hood River when I was on the bike train. He came in the evening before. I don't know how much sleep he got, not very much. And he was on the bike train with Megan Ramey that I was on. It was fun. It was great. His first day in Hood River. Do you guys have any questions about the program? It's pretty well explained in the memos. Gladys?
I do have a question. John, thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you in person. I've heard a lot of wonderful things.
Likewise.
Are there any plans for the trolley to operate during weekdays? And if so, how can we as a city support that, as the trolley in general would be great to have during the week, like Monday through Friday for individuals. And I'm just hoping to hear, are there any conversations of weekday services?
So the plan that we have in place is we're going to be leasing a trolley while we work towards transferring 2 trolleys to our district. And once we're able to get those 2 permanent trolleys that would be here, there is a potential that we could put those on the weekday Hood City route, which in theory you would have a trolley operating 7 days a week. And we would have 2 trolley vehicles to rotate between to make that happen.
And when would you have those 2 trolleys?
We're going through the process right now to do the transfer. So we're hoping at least by at least August, since they are federally funded with federal interest, we have to transfer them from another transit agency.
And would they operate in the winter then?
These trolleys actually have the ability to where we could take the windows out in the summertime and then we could reinstall the windows for the wintertime.
Perfect.
So that's what makes them potentially usable year round.
Okay.
Megan?
Hi, John. It's nice to virtually meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah, I agree with Gladys, and I hope to meet you in person soon. I guess so big picture, I'm super excited about all 3 of these programs, and thank you for working with us on them. I'm wondering, the low income program, if I'm reading it right, folks have to apply with you, I'm assuming in person. And I'm wondering, knowing that folks that are low income often have to go to multiple different places to sign up to potentially multiple different services. Have you talked about, or is there a way to partner with, Mid-Columbia Action Center, if I got that acronym right, or some other folks that already work with the low income community that might streamline some of that or make it a little easier?
And actually, that's the ultimate goal, is we want this program to be easy. So we do intend to partner. I believe One Community Health has like an ID card. So we were going to basically state, if you have the Community Health ID card, that is one way you can register and get the low income pass. But yes, we do want to partner with existing nonprofits that are already serving the low income community so that we don't create another application process and create another hurdle for somebody who just wants to have the freedom to travel.
Awesome, thank you.
Other questions for John? Great, thank you. Thank you for coming on and explaining the program. I'm pretty excited. I mean, I think I was talking to Will about the outreach it's going to be done to get the employees to understand that they don't have to pay for parking downtown. They can get on the bus and come downtown, and you know, that they have to work within a certain radius, but that's great. I mean, I think it's a great service, great partnership.
Thank you. Yeah, and we definitely look forward to working with the city as well as our nonprofit partners and MCED towards making this Gorge Pass program happen effectively.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll just say I appreciate the partnership with CAT and the city, and I will move to authorize the city manager to sign an IGA with CAT to provide bus passes to eligible recipients and restore seasonal trolley service.
I second.
All right, Gladys has made a motion and, or excuse me, Jessica's made a motion, Gladys has seconded to approve and sign the IGA with CAT to provide bus passes to eligible recipients and restore seasonal trolley service. Roll call vote. Jessica?
Aye.
Gladys?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Megan?
Yes.
Tim?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. Great, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Marla, do you want to try it again? I'm not sure if you got in on the phone now or if we should give it a shot one more time.
Mayor, I believe she's called in on the 805 number, so Mark,
Okay.
go ahead.
I believe I'm in.
Okay, great.
Can we hear me? Yes.
Yes,
This
we can
is
hear you.
wonderful. This is nothing. It's not a practice in resilience. So, thank you for your time again. I am here to, on this agenda item, to reference materials on page, I believe they start on 96 of your packet, to talk about, to get city council input on a strategy recommended by the Hood River County Energy Council. The intent of this strategy would be to allow a process for the Energy Council to provide input and engage in policy and planning programs that are relevant to the Hood River County, or that would affect the community's ability to achieve the goals of the energy plan in a limited fashion that is transparent and the city is aware of. So to achieve this, the Energy Council is recommending putting forward a policy statement that would, a policy and program statement that is in front of you following my memo in the packet, that is basically a reflection of the Hood River County Energy Plan and its priorities and its goals in a really, by energy plan standards, simplified fashion, so that if there is a program or a policy, the Energy Council would have the ability to say, this element of this item is in line with the policy statement that is supported by the community, or it is not. So the hope being that there's an opportunity to engage that's, again, clear and transparent. I will finish there and let anyone ask questions if needed.
I can explain a little bit more about it too. So, or just like an example. So let's say something comes up in the legislature regarding, a policy that they're talking about passing or not passing. And the Energy Council looks at it and says, oh, I think, we should support that. We should put in a letter of support. What this is on page 95 and 96, if the city council approves this, this is what the Energy Council would look at on these 2 pages to see if that legislative item falls under these things that we as Hood River City Council have said, yes, we're good with that. And then that would allow the Energy Council to go ahead and put in a letter supporting it or saying, well, gosh, it doesn't include any of these things. That legislative item should include some of these things, but it doesn't. So, and it doesn't go outside these. That's why we're trying to make it clear and transparent. But we don't want the Energy Council to have to come to City Council every single time one of these things comes up. So as long as the City Council is okay with these policy and program things on page 95 and 96, then the Energy Council can go ahead and say, we think this is a great thing. You guys should pass this in the legislature. And the Energy Council would also let us know, but it wouldn't, the time sensitive things we wouldn't have to come to Energy Council, wouldn't have to come to Hood River City Council every single time, or go to the Hood River County Commission, or go to the port. We would have this policy statements that we would follow. That's what it's for. Questions, Megan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess big picture, I think that process makes sense. It's fairly in line with kind of what we already do, even on council of, oh, we've already made these statements about housing. And so we'll go and kind of say those same statements. So this is what we support and we want to see in whatever the law is. I'm clearly really good at Salem words. So I'm down for the general idea, I guess, maybe reverting back to Gladys's thing earlier this meeting on plain language. I think there's a couple things in the proposed policy statement that I'm not 100% clear on what they mean, specifically on page 96, numbers 1, 6, and 7. And so if there's a way to clear that up, from my end, that would be helpful. But like big picture, I support the process, and most of this, what I understood of the policy thing sounds good. So thank you.
Okay, I could, let's go additional questions, and I can explain, I think, at least one of these, maybe a couple of them. Mark?
Yeah, thanks. I think, this is all great stuff, and we as a community are lucky to have such a committee that we've empowered. So that's really good. Would the Energy Council be signing Energy Council's name or City Council's name? And would they be obligating money or us or the city to do anything? Is it just advocacy as approved as in the form of the Energy Council with a caveat that the council and the county and Cascade Locks have all said, go do good stuff? Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you want to answer that one, Marla? It doesn't have anything to do with funding.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're...
No, I'm here. I just unmuted the wrong one. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So I don't know if I caught it completely, but the Energy Council policy statement on the last day does say the Energy Council does not make policy or related decisions for public entities. And we'd try in all the letters it would say, like, the Energy Council, the energy policy statement is a reflection of the goals of the Hood River County Energy Plan, but is coming from the Hood River County Energy Council. Does
Cool.
that answer your question?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's good. We're not writing a check. We're encouraging you to go do good stuff. I would say, since I have the mic, that number 1 is so broad that it basically lets them do absolutely everything. But I'm hip. Okay, that's an Eric comment. Yeah.
And it doesn't prohibit the city council from also putting something on letterhead that we individually, like, this is so important, we've got to get on the bandwagon and talk to our legislative representatives. So we can still do that individually as a council, as a city, if we want to. Other questions? All right. I think, when this number one, enhance the role of communities in energy program and system development and decision making. In the past, the cities haven't had a lot of say with the Public Utility Commission and what goes on with how energy is distributed and how it works. And I think that that's changing. And so this is part of that. Cascade Locks has their own Cascade Locks Electric, Hood River Electric Co-op, Northern Wasco PUD. Those are all kind of anomalies when you look at how energy is distributed in general. So I think that there may be more smaller entities like that in the future, and that's part of what is referring to in number one.
I interpreted that as something a little different, so I'm glad that you clarified that.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's anything else, Marla, you want to add on about that, but that's kind of what I think part of that's about.
I think it's more of the first part of what you said, Mayor, is correct in working to make sure that there's an opportunity for communities to provide input in the development of energy systems. It's historically been, somewhat siloed no matter what decisions are being made. And so encouraging the ability for communities to influence the energy decisions.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Go ahead, Tim.
Thanks. First of all, I'd like to say that I really appreciate the Energy Council. All the work.
Tim, maybe you could take your video off.
Yeah, I'm thankful that they're all that they're doing good stuff. So is supporting.
Oh man, Tim, your audio is still, we're catching about every third word you're saying. It's not
Yeah, and
great.
that's not going to work because it's kind of complicated.
Yeah. Maybe you could put something in the chat because we can't hear it.
Can he call in?
Or call in? Yeah.
No, that's okay. I'm going to stand down.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Mayor, we do not have the chat function enabled.
Oh, that's right. We don't have chat. Sorry about that. I forgot about that. Well, we're going to be maybe going to a different format for our next meeting. So I'm upset that we can't hear you, Tim, but it's really, I think it's a bandwidth issue, but I'm not sure. All right. Okay, so the request is provide input on whether you're comfortable with the Energy Council writing letters of input to highlight areas where policies do or do not achieve energy plan goals as reflected in the policy and program statement. Does anyone else have any comments?
So I guess I'm going to go back to mine of what you explained as number one doesn't make any sense based on what is written, at least for my brain. And I'd still love an explanation of 6 and 7.
Okay, let's see. Marla, do you want to answer those on 6 and 7? Or maybe we should get more information later on those?
So I can try to explain. So in terms of 7, that's basically advocating for, hold on, let me read it, I'm saying it right. enhances energy. So basically saying that Hood River County should have the ability to have access to the highest level energy code in some way. So either a program that encourages the state to pass highest level energy code, or provides the city the option of giving it thumbs up if it would like to, or gives an incentive pathway that allows the city to incentivize going above energy code. And that's in the energy plan. And then, does that make sense?
Energy code, building code?
Building code.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And we can clarify that.
Yeah, it probably should say energy building codes.
And the item number 6 is intended to reflect the land use and planning section of the energy plan, which basically encourages sort of some of the active transportation options and encouraging walking and biking, and basically making it more walkable so you're not using a bunch of emissions in a vehicle, personal vehicle.
Or more public transportation, so less vehicles. So is everyone good with how this looks? I see some heads nodding yes. I see a thumbs up. We don't have a motion, but we just, we need consensus, basically. Mark, you're good? Megan?
I am, yeah. This is a going forward thing of, yeah, if we can use language that is less jargony in the future, that would be really helpful.
Eric? You're good. Okay. All right. I'm good. So Tim, are you good? We can just get a thumbs up from you. We can see you, then we can. Okay. All right. Good. Tim is good too. All right. Thanks. Everyone on council has given a thumbs up for the people that are listening in. Thanks, Marla. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
All right. Next, we have adoption of city manager position profile and hiring process. Eric Jensen.
Yeah, Jonathan, can you promote Eric Jensen? And I also thought I saw Amelia Wallace. Mayor, I'll do a quick introduction. The purpose, while they're getting on the meeting, the purpose is to review and adopt the position profile and hiring procedures for the 2021 city manager recruitment. You'll recall, and for those listening, that on May 26th, the city council held a special meeting and reviewed the draft position profile and hiring procedures, provided feedback, and Eric Jensen now is back to review this document and to move forward at your direction. I'll turn it over to Eric.
Thank you, Rachel. And thank you, Mayor and Council. Good to be back. And I think we're a little closer to the mark this time around, getting ready to launch the recruitment. So we took the comments that you gave us on May 26. We revised the profile and the hiring process accordingly. Excuse me. And as a result, you have the document that was provided to you with your packet. So what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through the changes to highlight those that we made, and then also talk to you a little bit about our process going forward. So looking at the position profile, that would be the Appendix A of that document that you have. First of all, I'd like to say, last time we talked about how lengthy that list is, and that it might take a super individual to actually fulfill the requirements. I'd like to say that I think that what we have now is much closer to the norm of what we experience with other recruitments with other cities. So I feel like we're getting there. So so the first thing we did, we consolidated the housing and the community development sections. And essentially what that meant was moving the housing concepts under community development. And so we haven't lost that, but it's become part of that broader community development topic. The second thing we did is we broke up the communication section that we had before and incorporated the elements of those sections into the council relations description and also into the community engagement description. So hopefully you'll find that we didn't really lose anything on the communication side. We just reframed it. The next thing that we did was to add transportation to the public infrastructure section. As you pointed out last time, that was an omission. And so we made sure that transportation was part of that. We also, in the policy directive section, which follows the attributes, under housing and community development, we included verbiage to reflect the numerous years that the council has been working on the housing issue, as you wanted to be able to reflect. And we also removed the reference regarding urban services outside the city limits because, as you pointed out last time, it was a little confusing in the way it was written, and it probably didn't really rise to the level of what we're looking at here in terms of the issues that the next city manager is going to be addressing. So those are the main changes in the profiles. And I'm not talking about the hiring section, but I'm talking just about Appendix A. Those are the main changes there. So my first question to you is, did we hit the mark on that section for you? Thumbs up, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Okay, well,
Tim?
that's great.
Tim, are you good? Okay, Tim's thumbs up too. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors. I'd then like to talk just a little bit before we talk about the hiring process changes, talk about how we go about evaluating these attributes. Because this document, as I've pointed out before, is one that we use as the foundation for evaluating the applications. We use it for evaluating during the semifinalist interviews, and we use it throughout the finalist process. And one of the things I'd like to point out is that even though you've got a long list there of attributes, when we look through the evaluation process, not everything is weighted equally. And so we listen to you in terms of the things that you've told us are important. We weight those more heavily, plus our own experience with regard to recruitment. So for example, and you'll also notice that we rearranged the attributes, and that was on purpose because I wanted to show kind of a priority list, if you will. So those items that are closer to the top would be weighted more heavily. Those to the bottom would be weighted less heavily. Now, the first couple are really basic can they do the job? Do they have good management skills? Do they have great leadership skills? Can they work with the council effectively? And those are core elements of what a city manager does. And without those elements, the rest of the attributes that you have are not going to mean anything if they can't drive home the management piece and the council relations piece. And so we tend to rank those much heavier than we do the others, because we want to make sure that they hit the mark. The next two down on the list were ones that we heard from you: community development, planning, and implementation. That includes the housing piece in there. But you talked to us a lot about addressing growth and long-term planning and the importance of being able to manage the different elements that come into play. And then the community engagement piece we heard loud and clear is something that you really want to make sure that you continue the efforts that you've been successful at so far and enhance those efforts in terms of spreading the net a little wider in terms of bringing in even more folks that may not be currently involved or kept informed as much as maybe you would like. So we kind of put those two in the same grouping, and then I moved down to budget, finance, public infrastructure, and DEI. In terms of finance and public infrastructure, you have a fairly deep bench at the city in terms of the skill sets that you have on staff, and which is what we heard from you, and that the person coming in may not need to be quite as strong on that because they've got a good bench behind them. The diversity and equity piece is very important. And we did incorporate, I want to point out, we incorporated that all the way through the management and leadership attributes to the top. So it's not like it's sitting isolated there on the bottom, or it's not on the bottom, but toward the end. But rather, we're looking at, okay, do they have, what level of experience are they bringing to the table? And when you look at sort of managing the city and the things that need to happen, you want to fold that in, but you want to make sure you've got the core elements first. So, and then lastly, the last couple, intergovernmental relations, appreciation for Hood River, we would tend to rank those at the lower end. Chances are that if they have good management and leadership skills, they're going to be good at intergovernmental relations. So that's the way we look at it, and we will apply weighting in our scoring to reflect that. But I want to just do a quick check with you folks and see whether or not that resonates with you.
Gladys?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. I appreciate your time. I respectfully disagree with the diversity, equity, and inclusion being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th point down. That should definitely be within the top 3, in my opinion. We do want to be very intentional, and this person has to look through everything they do through the lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I definitely believe that one should be higher up on the list, and I'd be curious to hear what my peers' thoughts are. And, you know, it has come up time and time again that this is quite the list. Well, I definitely agree, but at the same time, we want to be very intentional. Hood River is a special place, and we are looking for an extraordinary individual. And in my opinion, right now, we're not in any rush. Will is going to do a fabulous job in the meantime. So I think we can wait. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Megan?
Yeah, as you were explaining the priority list, I was definitely thinking DEI should at least be above budget and finance, because I do think we have very talented folks, and obviously not that a city manager shouldn't know these things, but we have talented folks working on all of those, and we do need a manager that can actually really lead us on this, because we are still learning about that whole end of things. And I guess kind of in that same way, I actually thought understanding city government roles should be above appreciation of Hood River. I think they're going to appreciate Hood River. We probably don't need to tell them to. So that's maybe my lowest.
So I'm sorry, Counselor, what was the last part you said?
I just mumbled at the end. Understanding of city government roles, I think, would be above appreciation of Hood River, because I think that's the lowest on my priority of these.
Okay. Thank you.
Others? Mark?
Yeah, mostly to Gladys, I think. I certainly your consistency is certainly appreciated, and I don't disagree with you at all. I do think that the community development and community engagement stuff is so much tied into the DEI stuff that I didn't have a problem with how it was laid out, not because it's not important, but because we've it really, to me, it runs through the narrative with those top things. That said, some fiddling around below community engagement seems fine. I think the infrastructure and facilities is such a big part of our budget and our plan that I would hate to tell people that that's below the social stuff. Does that make sense? So I mean, the comment that budget and finance, that we have a strong bench is certainly appropriate. So maybe moving DEI onto that page and budget and finance down would be my recommendation, but just acknowledging what your point is, B, saying that I think that it's integrated throughout, and seeing if we can't find a good compromise position for that paragraph.
I just want to interject. I'm not stating we're not, I see equity all over. I see it all over, but it's just that we want to be very intentional, right? And we signed that resolution that we're never going to stop learning. We're lifelong learners. And it's just about being very intentional that we are trying to restructure systems and we're trying to do things differently.
All right, thank you.
Others?
So if I may, I've definitely received the message that DEI needs to move up, which is fine. And we did, as I point out, try to interlace DEI throughout the attributes wherever appropriate. So I don't think we're not going to lose that, and we've heard that pretty clearly. In terms of making sure that you've got the right skill sets coming in addition to having that DEI lens, if you will. What I'm hearing is perhaps DEI is moving up above budget, finance, maybe public infrastructure, although Councilor Zandmiller, I believe you were saying you thought public infrastructure is something that is really important to keep on toward the top of the list. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to say, I would put after community engagement, it would either be infrastructure. I would put infrastructure, DEI, budget in that order. But I think if it was DEI, infrastructure, budget, they're almost the same to me. So
Mark's second is my preferred. So
Yeah, same.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is DEI, public infrastructure, budget, but public infrastructure and DEI is coming in kind of sort of equal in your minds. Okay, all right, and I want to emphasize here that we've committed to really put a lens on DEI. We have an expert that we've brought on for the recruitment to help us diversify the pool as much as possible. And so we will keep that lens going forward. So, all right, well, unless you have any other thoughts, that's all I had on that piece. Okay, we will adjust accordingly. On the hiring process section, the only thing that changed was the schedule. And last time you pointed out appropriately that the schedule was too long. We run the risk of losing candidates if we run this too long. And so as a result, we have tightened this up as much as we can, and moving the launch of the advertisement from June 14th to June 30th. And then still keeping a 4-week application period, which is standard. And we maintained the finalist week, the week of September 6th. So that didn't move. We're still ending at the same finish line in terms of the deadline. The other piece that I would point out is that the meeting when the council meets to select the finalists, we have as the week of the, I believe it's the 9th, the 8th. I'm sorry. I had placed it down as August 12th. Because I was trying to get it as close to the finalist week as we can on our schedule. And so that would be the last day that we could fit that in, as I'm not available for 10 days after that. So yes, Counselor.
So that's a special meeting on a Thursday is the plan?
Well, that's what we need to find out whether you're okay with that.
So
would
we
just
should
advocate-
look at our schedules now. Is that what you're thinking? Maybe we should do?
Yeah, or we can also change it. Does this say the week of is it July? I'm sorry, August 8th? Is that the start of that week? And then we can work with the schedule depending upon when the council is available, and just try and get it as close to the 12th as we can.
Yeah, we have a meeting on the 9th already. Can we do it in executive session that
Yes.
date? Is that
Yeah.
all right? Okay.
I
'Cause we already have a meeting.
I was just trying to slide it as close as I could. So, but the 9th is fine with us. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay. So we'll make that change to August 9th. And so that's the only change in the hiring process. So with that change, that's pretty much it. The next steps in this process, assuming that you are going to go ahead and formally approve this tonight, we will begin drafting a brochure based on the attributes that you have in the candidate profile. And the brochure is going to have the position profile with the attributes, but it's also going to have the recruitment dates on it and a description of the community that describes Hood River will be on there as well. So we will get that done and we will have it ready to launch on June 30th. We will work with Rachel to run the language by her to make sure that we're still consistent. And we'll be ready to rock and roll.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Eric, on this week of September 6th, finalist reception, interviews, and selection, will that all happen within one day, or do you think that will take a couple days?
That normally takes 3 days.
3 days.
So, yeah. So we will do, normally what we'll do is we'll have 2 receptions on one day, which will be the staff, usually in the afternoon of that day, and the community in the evening. And then the next day, we will have the panel interviews. So that would be the 3 panel interviews that we've suggested, which of course the council is one, a panel of public administrators, and a panel of community members. And so we will run those all at the same time on that morning. And then in the evening, we go back to the office, we summarize all that, and then we come back and we meet with you the next day. And then we download all the information from all the different sources, including the references, the background check, what came from the receptions, what came from the other panels. And then you have an opportunity then to deliberate and select your preferred candidate.
Okay, so logistically, we can expect, the council interviews, that's going to be one meeting with each candidate, which is going to take several hours. And then the next day, we will have more interviews and discussion and picking someone.
So you will have interviews on the one day with the candidates, usually the day before the deliberation, so it's still fresh in your mind. Yeah.
All right. So,
and I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, I was just gonna, I just want to get everyone, that is Labor Day weekend, that's the 6th. And so that's during that week of Labor Day is on Monday. I believe school starts on Tuesday. So everybody that has kids in school, we're talking about quite, some hours here that we're going to need to put in on that week, whether it's an afternoon or a morning. And then the next day, we're going to have another, very important meeting that could take several hours. So we'll send information out to people and try and coalesce everyone's calendars together. But that's what Eric's talking about when we talk about these meetings coming up for this. So
it's a very intensive week. So, and any other questions I can answer? All right, we're very optimistic. I think we're going to find a great candidate for you.
All right, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I will move to adopt the position profile and hiring procedures for the 2021 city manager recruitment.
We need to say with the edits from tonight, or?
With the edits from tonight.
Right, Jessica's made a motion to approve with the suggestions from this evening. Do you have a second?
I second.
Oh, you did second. Oh, I just thought that was a thumbs up. I wasn't sure. Thank you, Megan. Second from Megan. Roll call vote. Jessica?
Aye.
Gladys?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Eric?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. I guess I have the next item, and that's appointment of an interim city manager. I believe Rachel's last day is July 2nd. I think that's a Friday. And
July 1st, Mayor.
July 1st, okay, which is a Thursday?
That's correct.
Thursday, okay, that is your last day, okay. All right, and I've talked to Will, and the city charter is, the way it reads is that the mayor appoints an interim director. And I've talked to Will about his willingness to take on some big shoes to fill here for a few months for us. And he's agreed to be our city manager, and he's done it in a short-term interim way previously and done a great job for us. And you know, I'd like to have a motion for myself to appoint Will. I think he'll do a great job, and I think with Will at the helm, we're going to lose less momentum than if we had anyone else doing it, because Will knows where we are, where we've been, where we're going. You know, he knows all the finances. He works well with all the other department heads and is very, very versed in everything that's going on. And I just believe he'd do a really good job for us where we are. All right.
So I will move to have Mayor McBride appoint Will Norris as the interim city manager effective July 2nd, 2021 to serve until a permanent replacement is hired.
Second.
Thank you, Megan. Megan made a motion and Eric seconded that motion. Roll call vote. Jessica?
Aye.
Gladys?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes, great choice. Thanks, Will.
Tim?
Aye, thanks, Will.
Megan?
Yes.
Eric?
Aye.
And I'm proud to say that I vote aye, and you will be appointed as the new city manager as of July 2nd, Will.
Great, thank you, Mayor, and looking forward to just keeping momentum on our existing council priorities and make sure we have a smooth transition from Rachel onto our next city manager.
Great, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking it on. All right. In-person meetings. Oh, yes. Okay, Rachel, take us away. Take us away.
Wow, who would have thought that we would be here talking about this? So the purpose of this item, we saved it to last, is really to have a conversation with you about what it looks like to transition back to in-person meetings. And it's a really happy conversation. So we have proposed a path. We're kind of waiting, as everybody is, to see what happens when the state hits the 70% threshold of vaccinations. That could free up, you know, some workplace regulations that we've been under, but we won't know until we actually see the regulations. So given all of that and how quickly things change, our proposal as a starting place for discussion is that we would return in a hybrid model at our next meeting, where we would be able to verify all of the city councilors and any staff that would be present. We probably just limit that. We would verify vaccination status, and we would operate in a hybrid environment for that next meeting, where staff and council would be in the office and we would be broadcasting virtually. The other reason for that is that we're installing new technology this week. I heard the hammering in there all day today that will enable us to broadcast when we return to in-person meetings. So that would be the first test of that system. So it would actually be helpful to have fewer people in the council chambers while we're testing it for our first meeting. Right now, the agenda actually looks pretty light. So seems like a good time to start that process. So, and at that point, we could evaluate how it's working and how what the regulations are and potentially move back to normal meetings in July. So I'll stop there. We're happy to answer any questions and just open it up for council discussion on that proposal.
So I don't know if you guys have been in there, but there's going to be one really large screen. And then each person is going to have a small computer in front of them and a microphone. So it's going to be quite different than we've had in the past. So I don't know, Rachel, do you want to kind of explain how that is supposed to work? So maybe they can see.
Sure. So Mayor, you explained it perfectly. It'll be configured a little bit of the same way, except for the screens. But the dais remains the same. Staff will actually be split into 2 tables because we will have 3 or 4 screens for the city recorder to monitor everything and run the WebEx meetings. We're getting trained on new software right now, and it's actually pretty seamless. The microphone works very well. It picks it up as you're speaking to it, so that enables, you know, decent broadcasting and audio recording. There's a camera mounted on the ceiling so that we can broadcast. That's kind of how it works. We actually aren't using it yet, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you I've experienced it myself, but that's the.
I have one question, Richard. You
layout.
said
Yeah.
there'll be a camera mounted on the ceiling, I think you said. So is that camera the only camera that the audience, the virtual audience, the people that aren't in the chambers would see us, or would they actually see us in individual screens like we are on Zoom right now?
No, not at this point, Mayor. This is where we're starting with just one big video. We do,
okay.
we can add cameras, we can add back-end features. You know, people can actually produce this for us in the back end. That all adds some cost and complexity, but we're starting with this kind of we're starting with one camera, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Be able to show the presenter individually.
Okay. Okay. So with that in mind, you know, just going through a lot of Zoom meetings in the last year, it is, to me, it's imperative that you can see the person's mouth moving. That if we're going to be doing this, we're not going to have masks on, because people cannot understand you when you are wearing a mask. You know, it works pretty well with Zoom. We can see each other close enough. You can, you know, make out what people are saying a lot of times just by their lips moving to some extent. But when you have a mask on and you're taking the video from a distance away, it's going to be very difficult for people to understand what we're saying if we have masks on. And that's why you've suggested, Rachel, that we just, everyone that's in there needs to be vaccinated, and they will be checked for vaccines. For this next meeting, I'm only talking about this next meeting and the people that will be there for the next meeting. So I guess that's where we need to find out what people's comfort level is. If everybody has been vaccinated that's in the room, and we will be in there without masks. And people can also join from their own homes and use Zoom if they don't feel comfortable with that.
That's right. That's what, thank you for adding that, Mayor. That's correct. And that's a feature that we'll have going forward, that counselors will be able to join the meeting via Zoom when they're not able to attend in person.
So just, you know, what are you guys' thoughts?
Mayor, this is Tim. Hopefully you can hear me, but that sounds.
You're muted, Tim.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to you. Okay, all right. Jessica's giving me a thumbs up.
I'm hip to the experiment. This will be fun.
Yeah, I'm ready to try it and be with you guys for the, what, 4th time ever?
Oh, gosh. Oh,
Yeah, I agree. I think it sounds like a good test it out and see how it goes.
okay. Eric? You're good with it. Okay, all right. All right, so so the next meeting, we should probably come a little early because everyone there, including any staff that's going to be there, will be checking vaccination cards before people go in. Or you can let us know you're not coming and you can join us by Zoom. Is that correct, Rachel?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
And you can bring it on your phone. That's fine. A photo.
Okay. Megan?
I'm just wondering, with the new technology, and maybe this is also for the early, if someone's going to provide a little training, or if we should try to learn it ahead of time, or what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, actually, thanks for that question. Let us get it in. We'll get it in this week, and then let us play around with it a little bit and see what we need to do. And we'll definitely make sure everybody either has some time or has some instructions. So thanks for the suggestion to come a little early, Mayor. I think 15 minutes, so be fine.
Thank you.
And I think this is, this is something that, COVID put us into the Zoom mode. And then, this has put us into this next step that we had talked about taking for more, for people to be able to join us and make it easier for people to join us remotely. And so we're just doing this step, we're just doing it now. So a lot of the community's been wanting it for a while. So I think it's a great thing. All right.
Will we have access to the packets electronically?
Thank you, Counselor. At the meeting, is that your question?
Yes.
You will have a screen in front of you, but you won't actually have, you won't be able to operate it. So you would have to have the packet electronically using a device.
Okay. So we would need to bring a computer too, then.
If you wanted to access your packet electronically, you would have to bring a tablet.
Thank you.
And I, because of, working with Zoom and, trying to run the meeting, I have to do it with paper. I can't do this with, all these screens and going back and forth, and I'm on the wrong page. And so I have to have the paper in front of me. So I'm going to continue using paper for that. So I hate to cut down the trees for it, but I can't get through it any other way.
Yeah, and thanks for that question, Counselor. And Mayor, I appreciate that, because that would, if we were going to have the packet, as you said, we'd have 2 screens and there just wouldn't be room for that. The purpose of the screen on the dais is for presentations.
For us to make presentations, or other people making presentations to us?
So that you can see the presentations and the PowerPoints.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. All right. Oh my God. In person. Get out of your fuzzy slippers, guys. Gonna have to put the real shoes on. Get down to city council.
Aloha shirts it is.
Pretty exciting though, to actually see people. That is really exciting to be able to do that. Great. Thank you, Rachel. Planning Commission vacancy, upcoming vacancies and opportunities. Dustin.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple positions that are coming up. We have a planning commission that has staggered terms. 2 of those terms are coming up in October, and then as well, we have a vacancy. Tina Lassen will no longer be on the planning commission. So we will actually have 3 positions that we're going to interview for. So prior to going out, The last couple selection processes, we've had the mayor as well as a council rep do interviews ahead of time, then for the recommendations to council or all the reviews to council at large for their selection. And it's that time of year. So we're looking for a council volunteer along with the mayor. If that is the process that you want to continue to go through as we've done in the past couple of rounds.
And then I believe the last time we brought the full slate back to council with a recommendation, but the full slate will be what council would vote on. For, well, we need 3 people. I mean, that's quite a few people. Especially, are we going to try and is Tina off right now then?
She is off right now.
So are we advertising an open position right now?
We're not. We wanted to we were going to advertise all 3 right now, but we could.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't a planned departure, but
Okay.
currently we have a vacancy and then 2 positions coming up in October, I believe.
Okay. Does anyone want to jump on that interview committee?
Mayor, I like the new process a lot. I would prefer not to be the volunteer, but I'm willing to be the volunteer.
I would be willing to volunteer again, Mayor.
Okay. Well, Tim has said he will do it. Mark would do it if he'd had to.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's a mess, but that's great. Tim, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Councilor Cunahan. I had a question in regards to, there were some great applicants the last time around. Do we outreach those individuals again? Like, hey, these positions have come up. Are you still interested? Or is it really just posting it with the hopes that, word of mouth, it'll spread?
I think we intend to do both. Post it so word of mouth, so there's equal opportunity, and then outreach to those who expressed interest before. We'll make some directed outreach to them once again.
All right. So will we, are we going to wait until, well, we'll start interviewing people before, I mean, it's up in October, so we need to kind of figure this out before that. So we put a deadline of what, like the end of August or prior to that?
I think we're going to start some advertising immediately.
Right away. Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Tim. Oh my goodness, I think that's the end of the agenda. I don't have anything for mayor call other than, I think, we're over 70% for vaccinations for the county, aren't we? Yeah. So yay, Hood River. I mean, I think we're second highest in the state, the second highest county of rate of vaccination. Is that true? Gladys, maybe you know, or Will? I think that's where we are. That's what we were last week, I believe.
That's what I saw on the OHA's website last week. Yep.
Okay. So we're doing great. But we're
Benton County, and only, I think, Washington was ahead of us.
okay. And we're still doing vaccinations, not mass groups like we were doing before, but the health department is, basically walk-in basis. I believe one community health is still doing vaccines. I think a lot of kids are getting vaccinated now. So people are feeling pretty good about it. Haven't heard the rate of people that are getting COVID right now is pretty low, and it's only people that aren't vaccinated for the most part, not 100%, but very close to that. It's only people that aren't vaccinated that are getting it. So I think we're out of the woods, you guys. I say that, knock on wood, but I'm very, very, very hopeful, very hopeful. So that's all I've got for council call. I'm just so happy about vaccines for our county. council call. Any, Jessica,
Nothing from me, Mayor.
Gladys?
Yeah, I want to piggyback on some of the comments that you made. I want to definitely thank our health department, so many of our health partners in the area, but I am a little biased and I want to give a special shout out to all of those at One Community Health. Over 10,000 vaccines have been administered, and 66.4% of those vaccines are to individuals that identify as BIPOC, Latinx, Latino, Latina, Native American. So that is an organization that is being very equitable and intentional with vaccine equity. So I want to thank all of those that have been working really hard on the front lines for a really long time to help keep our community safe. So thank you, healthcare workers.
Mark?
I don't have anything especially witty, so I'll stop there.
Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess two things. First, it was last week I had the ACT meeting with ODOT for Region 1, which of course is just the council's connection to that ODOT committee. And to just report back three things. It was a couple-hour meeting. First, and as I've said before, tolling is coming to the Portland metro area, and that will be starting in 2024, just so you have a mental sense of that coming. We can all have that coming. The second thing, the ODOT folks have been working hard to fix Oneonta Gorge, which is a beloved place for folks in Hood River. That place is apparently going to be either open or reopening imminently. So that, of course, burned in the gorge fire, and ODOT's been working hard to repair that. So that was positive news. Also, the Mitchell Point tunnel work for the bicycle, that's going to be going the next couple of years, 2021 to 2023. And then the most important takeaway from that meeting is for the 2024 STIP Enhanced Highway, which is one of the discretionary funds that exists and which has been a source of revenue or I should say funding for projects that can reach our area. The two things that are on that list initially for Hood River County are, number one, $4 million for Wanapa and the Toll Bridge Road in Cascade Locks. And secondly, and most relevant to some of the things we've been talking about recently at council, $2 to $4 million for improvements for the little nub between the I-84 exit 62 exit and Mount Adams which we were talking about with respect to the historic highway improvement. I think that's separate. So this is a different chunk of money that can potentially go there. So that is, it's good to see something in Hood River to be on that list. And then the last thing, if I can mention, maybe just for the good of the order, if folks allow me to share my screen for just a moment, I was proud to be present. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So what you're looking at is Sergeant Shaley and his team, which if you could barely read those uniforms, that is the Hood River Police Department, Hood River Miners Little League team, which I'm proud to announce to this group has won the pennant, the local title in Hood River for the Miners Champions. So we have, part of the Hood River Police Department doing well in our community. Officer Shaley there, one of the coaches. My son's not on this team, but has played for Officer Shaley, and it was there was a neat moment when actually I noticed, because there was another game going on and I was watching the other game. I noticed all these police cars kept coming to this game. I thought, what's going on here? Well, the reason all the police cars were coming to the game is because I think the police department takes a lot of pride in this team. It's their team, and they're the Little League champions for minors in Hood River. So it was a proud moment. There was a neat moment where all the police cars turned their lights on. They took some pictures. Anyway, I just would like to acknowledge Officer Shaley's commitment there to the community, and the police department has taken the pennant.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for sharing that. That's a I love that positive stuff that we get like that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Megan?
I don't have anything tonight.
Tim? I don't know if we can hear you, but we can try.
Well, thanks, Mayor. And I'm just glad to hear all the positive news and the committee and,
Okay, thanks, Tim. I'm not going to go into any detail, but on the bi-state working group for the bridge replacement that goes across the Columbia River, we had a meeting today, and our packet that we got was a great packet that really explains where we are with what's going on with that. It was pretty lengthy, but I've sent it on to Rachel and Will, and they'll send it on to council, so you guys can just read where we are, other than me trying to explain everything that's going on with that. But just say we're moving forward with some governance structures and working on funding and lots of stuff. But just go ahead and read through that packet, and it's a lot easier than me trying to explain it to you. Take me a half an hour. Okay. I think that's it for this evening. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Long meeting, but we accomplished a lot, and we'll see you in person in 2 weeks. Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.